What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Speaking Wrestling with Elvis Arroyo. And as always, I am your host, Elvis Arroyo. This is episode number 12 of Speaking Wrestling, and this week I'm going to be speaking about Kevin Owens and the promo that he cut this week on Smackdown Live. Aleister Black answers his door. The Intercontinental Champion Finn Balor was back in action this week. Roman Reigns wins an Espy. We're also going to be talking about the Youngbucks, Jim Ross, and Wrestling Boom. Also going to be giving you guys a preview of Extreme Rules along with other events going on this weekend like Fight for the Fallen and Evolve. And also I'm going to give you guys my most valuable performers of the week and floppers of the week. Stick around for that at the end of the segment. But before we get started with all that, I really want to take time to thank all of you guys for supporting this podcast and helping spreading the word. I appreciate your guys' views and streams past week of previous shows. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to everybody that's gone on over to our YouTube page and subscribed. The views are coming in, so thank you for that. I appreciate that very much for that. And also, if you guys want to get in contact with this podcast via Twitter, we're available over at Speaking Wrestle and over on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling, guys. All right. So let's get going with what I was going to talk about. Big news coming out this week. TV this week for WWE really wasn't that great. I think last week they kind of outdid themselves. Didn't really come up with a better show this week, but nonetheless, there were some key points that I still found really interesting this week on SmackDown. And one of them being one is talked about a lot, and it's Kevin Owens. And if you listen to the podcast, you know that I was featuring him on the Floppers of the Week segment for the past couple weeks. He's out of it, and now he's in a shining spot. Here we see him on SmackDown Live, opening up the show, cutting him a promo, and what many are saying is a pipe bomb. To my aware, I kind of didn't really feel like it was much of a pipe bomb. I just really thought it was a promo. It was Kevin Owens shouting and yelling on a microphone, venting frustrations that many of us wrestling fans have had with WWE programming and the talent that is being utilized and opposed to the talent that is not. And Kevin Owens was very vocal this week about that in his pipe bomb, if you can call that. And again, you know, I see what they're doing with Kevin Owens, and I think Kevin Owens coming out and expressing himself the way he did on SmackDown and pretty much speaking for us, kind of being the voice of the voiceless. And yes, I'm kind of, throwing some little hints in there of CM Punk, and we'll get to that in a moment. But again, going back to what Kevin used in describing the talent not being utilized, he threw out some names that we know that aren't on TV, and it's because of Shane McMahon, the Drew McIntyre storyline that takes up most of Monday nights and most of SmackDown. And I get what they're doing here. They're really turning the corner on Kevin Owens and getting away from the character that we knew him for the past month in that storyline with Kofi Kingston and the WWE title. And this is, a sharp turn on the character for Kevin Owens. I mean, and maybe that's why this is kind of still falling a little bit flat for me. And I'll say this: I think Kevin Owens, since coming back to the WWE when he was introduced by Mr. McMahon to be in a Kofi Kingston at Fastlane earlier this year, it just really fell flat because the vignettes leading up to that was that Kevin Owens was going to be a babyface. He comes back and he's a heel. Then he's kind of going back into a babyface because that didn't work out. They put him back as a strong heel. Now, once again, we're back at pushing Kevin Owens as a very strong and likable babyface. By having Kevin Owens go out there and cut a promo like this, that it in a lot of ways was really just supposed to emulate what a pipe bomb was, as many on social media have been saying, and I see the comments, and I don't know if it's a generational thing. I feel that there is a little bit of disconnect from when the last big moment like that happened on WWE, and it's that CM Punk promo, and it's been about 8 years removed since that's happened. Let's talk about the comparisons to that promo, because a lot of attention is being drawn into that Kevin Owens is the new voice of the voiceless. He is the savior of the WWE, and he's somebody that we can look at to go up against, the evil empire, the evil tyranny of the McMahon family. And in this case, it's led by Shane McMahon and his corporate minions, McIntyre at times and Elias. And Kevin Owens seems like someone that we can turn to. I'm all for it. I'm great. It's just these quick turnarounds on characters. It's like I said, it's not too far that Kevin Owens was coming out there and agreeing with everything Sami Zayn was saying about these people and berating Kofi Kingston about screw the fans. It's not about the fans. It's about what's best for Kevin Owens and his family and his friend, Sami Zayn. And now he's coming out and being this vigilante and speaking for us, standing up for us and speaking up for the things that we say on podcasts and on social media and letting it out be known on WWE television. Going back to comparing this to the pipe bomb that CM Punk originally did on an episode of Monday Night Raw back in summer of 2011. That was a work, just like this one was a work, but I think the intention was, and it was more different. It was presented in a way that was that what you were seeing wasn't part of the show that CM Punk went over. And yeah, again, they were at a time when they were still going over the 11 o'clock hour, and it felt real. And then the mic being cut off, and not only that, but I think the dialogue that if you were to script out the dialogue between the two pipe bombs again of CM Punk and Kevin Owens, I think with the Kevin Owens, it seems like it's written for his character, as we've seen in the past weeks, to go up against the McMahons and to be this anti-establishment character. And with the CM Punk, I think it was a natural character, and which is why every word that he said in that promo, he said it with a lot of conviction, and there was a lot of truth to it. There was a lot more ooh and it really came from a place that Phil was really speaking from, because if you followed his career and you follow the system at the time, it was going up against someone like him. I think a system that they got going today isn't necessarily going up, holding guys like CM Punk back. I think it's just so micromanaged, and WWE has their own system that guys like CM Punk can't emerge like that again. Guys like Daniel Bryan aren't emerging, where the audience takes such a demand and such a stand with those individuals that they back them up to a point where the company gives in and notices that these superstars are big money for them, big draw for the company. And Kevin Owens, no doubt in my mind, is a big draw for the company. I said in the past month, I would rather see Kevin Owens in Seth Rollins' opponent rather than Baron Corbin, just because I don't think Baron Corbin is ready yet. But I think a guy like Kevin Owens is the main event player. Is this his main event babyface push that he's expressed that he's wanted? I think so, and I think we'll finally get it. Is it going to mean better Kevin Owens? Yeah. I just wanted to speak on the fact that to go as far as to say that Kevin Owens' promo this week on SmackDown Live was anything but as close to maybe even better than CM Punk's pipe bomb, I think is a little far-fetched. But again, guys, you guys be the judge and let me know. Go back and watch CM Punk's pipe bomb. Watch Kevin Owens' pipe bomb, allegedly, this past week on SmackDown Live. And then let me know what you guys think. Which one was better? Which ones had better dialogue? And let me know over on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle, or just message me on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling. SmackDown Live this week was a really better show than Raw overall. And this week, the Intercontinental Champion, Finn Balor, was back in action. It was nice to see him alongside with his opponent, Shinsuke Nakamura. So it's great to see these two back in action. I don't know really why they weren't being utilized the past month. These are two superstars are here. Like I said, speaking of Kevin Owens, he's a main event player, and he could be a draw for the company. Shinsuke and Finn Balor. And there's a story to be told with Shinsuke and Finn Balor. These two have great chemistry going back to their days in the dojo of New Japan, and also coming up in through NXT and now in the main roster. And here they find themselves in a one-on-one opportunity with the Intercontinental Championship, up for balance. And I like this storyline. If these two guys, now that they're back on TV, can be used in a manner that will demonstrate their true wrestling, their true essence of calling a match, because I think these two are ring generals. Shinsuke, as a veteran, and Finn is just, a trustworthy veteran all the way. You can count on him to go out there and deliver a great match. Pay attention to Finn in the ring, because everything that's going on, he's a couple steps ahead of it and knows what's going on in the match. Good stuff. I'm excited for this. Look, it's going to lead to a match down the road for the title. This was just a one-on-one match on Smackdown Live. Title wasn't on the line, but Shinsuke picked up the win over Finn Balor. And look, Finn Balor hasn't been on TV, and it was, it really seemed like it was a squash match out there for Shinsuke. I don't know if this was, giving a big win for Shinsuke, but I think Finn being gone for TV, picking up a loss right here, and being the champion, it doesn't serve him well. But again, it's one of those, it's a bitter pill to swallow, because one's got to get the win to get their momentum going. But again, it's nice to see these two back. As also on SmackDown Live, Aleister Black. He's been calling out somebody to challenge him for about a month, 2 now. And he's been waiting for that door to open, waiting for that door to be answered by any man who's willing to take the challenge of the one Aleister Black. And finally, this week on SmackDown Live, we found out who will be challenging Aleister Black in his return match this Sunday at Extreme Rules. And that one is a very professional Cesaro. Cesaro is the perfect choice for Aleister Black's comeback match at Extreme Rules. I really like this a lot, and I through speculation and social media, many were thought to believe that it was going to be Bray Wyatt. I can see the comparisons, and I can see why people would be drawn to that conclusion. Both are riveting with their dialogue and their backstage promos and their cutscenes. One, the Firefly Funhouse, and then these scenes with Aleister Black on a weekly basis, but only on SmackDown Live, which is one of the interesting things, if there's a takeaway to that. But many disappointed that it wasn't Bray Wyatt versus Aleister Black. It's a dream match, and don't get me wrong, that would be a great match. And I've seen edited promos for SummerSlam and featuring Aleister and Bray on social media, and it looks great, and that would be a great match. But I think Bray and Aleister are two characters that are in some way similar. They're very good with their words, and again, their in-ring work is impeccable. But they are characters that are strong and carry more than just being average. Bray Wyatt, of course, he is a multi-universal character, and Aleister Black is, a character that unlike anybody else. And I think two characters like that, you want to keep them away. You don't want one to dominate the other. This is a matchup that I think if you're going to collide these two worlds, you save it for a pay-per-view, and you don't lead up to it just with a couple promos on Raw and SmackDown. This is something that you work your way up to a WrestleMania. So again, but back to Cesaro. Cesaro's getting his push. Cesaro's finally getting this push that we've all been waiting for. And we've seen it kind of stop and go. He's had that early run with the U.S. title when he debuted back in 2012. Then he got put with Paul Heyman in 2014, won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, the first one. I mean, that should mean something, the first one, but obviously he doesn't. And Cesaro, he's run the gauntlet with tag teams over the last year. He's multi-time tag team champion with, you can count on your hand how many partners he's had. And now he's finally getting this push where it's Cesaro on his own. And I'm excited for this. And Aleister, Cesaro, if you weren't expecting this, you're going to be satisfied with this in the end. I think you got to forget the fact that if you were wrong about who it's going to be, forget that. This is going to be a good matchup. And when you put these two guys on paper, don't sleep on this match. So I look forward to this. I'm happy Cesaro's getting his push. And along with another person getting a great push is Roman Reigns, who's no stranger to pushes. And look, I said SmackDown was a better show this week than Raw. And the finish to Raw, really brought it down, really brought any confidence in giving it a good rating for the week. That finish, with the end, with the Gary the Goat Garba, and who ended up becoming Cedric Alexander. A lot of people are, shitting on that, because what's the purpose of that? What's the meaning? What's the what's the comparison here? What's, where does Cedric and Roman Reigns relationship come in here? Why is Cedric of all people being in the spot? And, I think to me, many are just saying, they just needed to put someone random there. There's just another one of those, put a baby face in there and get a pop. But Roman and Cedric, or in this case, Gary the GOAT, got a loss here from Drew and Shane in the main event. And as to what the story is about Cedric being behind the mask, I think it's, if you've been following Cedric and his Twitter for the past month, since he's left 205 Live, he's been vocal about missing 205, about missing being in action. And since being up on the main roster, we haven't seen much of Cedric. Maybe he's had about a few matches on Raw. He's mostly on main event. And then we did see him capture the 24/7 title for about, 10 seconds or that. And I think Cedric's character is that he's hungry, he's on Raw, and he wants to compete. And he'll do anything to get TV time, anything to get ring time. And in this case, he took it upon himself to jump in the situation where he can change, put on a jumpsuit, put on a mask, go out there and be Roman Reigns' tag team partner. And look, he did good for himself because he put himself in the main event of Raw. So I think if Cedric's character could be utilized, that he's just hungry for TV time, and he'll do anything. I think that's a good underdog story right there. You can tell with Cedric. And it's nice to see him in the main event here. But then we shift over to SmackDown, and Roman Reigns was in the main event against Dolph Ziggler, and this was a great finish to an episode of SmackDown. Not just an episode of SmackDown, but just a show in general. This was a great finish, and the crowd was great. They were in Manchester, New Hampshire, and talk about a hot finish to an episode of SmackDown. It really reminded me of back in the day of like the Attitude Era days, like 2000, 2001, when the finishes were just so hot and everything was just hitting on the right spots, hitting their mark. Boom, boom, click, click, and then 1, 2, 3, crowd goes pop. They go off air, and you just left feeling like, wow, that was such a good finish. And if every week they can finish a show like that, I think business would be good for WWE. If you didn't watch Dolph Ziggler face Roman Reigns this past week on SmackDown, go back and watch that because the finish was great. And it's not so much, the spear and 1, 2, 3 to end the match. And everybody, like I said, was hitting their points right on time and making it look very nice, very, very perfect, very crisp. It's just the emotion and feeling in that audience. And I got to say, Roman Reigns looked good here in the end. He got the assist by Kevin Owens, who delivered a Stone Cold Stunner or a Owen Stunner to Shane McMahon. But again, just great action to finish this go-home edition of SmackDown going into Extreme Rules this Sunday, which we get to the predictions here very soon. But speaking of Roman Reigns, he was in the news later on in the week as he was a winner of an Espy Award this year as he won Best WWE Moment at the Espys, the first time ever that a WWE category has been featured on the Espys, which is monumental for the company. It speaks volume for them. Great way to keep getting the name out there for new audiences. And once again, WWE branding themselves alongside other professional leagues. And Vince has done a great job of getting here. And here he has his top guy, Roman Reigns, going out there receiving an award which he deserves. He won the award for an Espy of Best WWE Moment for returning after facing leukemia, which he was diagnosed last year. And look, Roman Reigns is well deserving of this award. I think everybody else's accomplishment should not be looked and forgotten past. Kofi and Becky and Ronda all winning championships, which is big moments for their personal careers. But I think when you're talking about personal health and overcoming it and still being, the top guy in the company. And congratulations to the WWE and Roman Reigns for winning an Espy at this year's ESPN Espy Awards. And once again, this only helps the WWE reach more audience. And with their move to Fox this fall, it's only going to get more bigger audience because they're going to reach a broader audience as they are now going to be open to more homes around the U.S. and around the world being on Fox. and that mainstream success is just going to carry them over. And with Roman Reigns being featured here, and John Cena being a movie star, The Rock being a movie star, Dave Bautista, who's got a movie coming out today in Stuber, he just wrestled at WrestleMania, and he's got a big movie coming out. WWE and professional wrestling is reaching these heights that haven't been reached in quite a long time. And if you're going to be talking about a wrestling boom, this would be a good time to talk about it. If you would have mentioned a wrestling boom maybe 5 years ago, it would have been crazy. But with the advances of professional wrestling and technology, and how we stream and how we receive professional wrestling in 2019, is only going to help the WWE into the future. And a wrestling boom right now is definitely cooking. If you believe it or not, a wrestling boom is definitely coming, and many would say that AEW and New Japan Wrestling have emerged in the past couple months, has helped that belief come into fruition that a wrestling boom is indeed in the near future. And in a time when you have social media and podcasts and YouTube and streaming services all over and all accessible to us at any given moment, any time in our hands, professional wrestling is setting up to be in a good spot. Come 2020, I do think that the WWE and AEW will be in good spots, with them being on multiple platforms to be viewed on, and on TNT and USA along with Fox. It's only going to get them in more homes and in more eyes. AEW, which has a show coming up this weekend, Fight for the Fallen, there's still many questions to be answered as to what this company is going to present and how are they going to present themselves. And this week, the Youngbucks, who are EVPs of All Elite Wrestling, sat down with Chris Van Vliet, or as MJF would say, Chris Van Vliet. And the Youngbucks didn't hold back. They were very candid about questions that were asked, and they answered quite a questions that many of us have been wondering about: how AEW is going to be presented, how is their pay structure going to work, how are they going to work on the road, what is there going to be presented on TV, and us even going as far as the gimmick chair shot with Cody. So it's a very good interview. If you haven't seen it, it's about a 40-minute interview with Chris Van Vliet. Good stuff. But from what I took away from it, was very interesting, because listening to JR this week on Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast, I feel like they were a little bit at odds with each other. I think a lot of what the Young Bucks have expected for AEW and what Jim Ross has expectations for the company are very different. And this is really where you start to kind of think that, AEW seems like there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And I really feel that they're really two interesting interviews to come out this week. And both, one, because Jim Ross is the voice of AEW Wrestling. He is their lead commentator, which you would hear this weekend commentate AEW's Fight for the Fallen, and the Young Bucks. They are the executive vice presidents of AEW. And it really seems like their theories and their ideologies of professional wrestling are a little bit different. JR is a little bit from the old school, and a lot of his theories seem to be pulling away from what the Young Bucks are going towards. And I don't know if there's if that diversity in the culture and in the mind thinking or the process of how you're going to run your company is really going to help them. And like I said, they have a show this weekend, Fight for the Fallen, which it is now time to preview this weekend's events. And we'll start with Fight for the Fallen, which the Young Bucks, have a challenge this weekend, because it is the first time that AEW is going to have some competition. Taking away from that interview that Jim Ross had with Stone Cold this week, he mentioned that for anybody to think that AEW is competition with the WWE, they're crazy. I mean, he even laughed and joked at the point that's insane. And it's very different from what the Young Bucks had on that, because they know that they are competition, even though they are presenting themselves as an alternative to the WWE or any other wrestling promotion. They're in competition with the WWE, and they're in straight competition. And whether they like it or not, their fans view them as being in competition with the WWE, and that's the way it's going to be. So really interesting there on their two feedbacks coming from two different sides working inside AEW. But again, the Fight for the Fallen show, it's got some competition because WWE is creating of Evolve Pro Wrestling and their 10th anniversary show this weekend, which will feature NXT superstars, which isn't a WWE show, but when you really think about it, it's about a glorified NXT house show because it will feature Adam Cole defending the NXT Championship against Akira Tozawa. Matt Riddle will wrestle Drew Gulak, and many more other NXT superstars I'm sure will be appearing there. But Fight for the Fallen, features Kenny Omega going up one-on-one against Zima, SCU, and the Lucha Brothers in a segment with Chris Jericho. And I know, and Brandy Rose is in action too, so, that's going to be very great. But other than that, this is really the first time that AEW is going to have straight competition, and it's, again, not WWE, but it will be on the WWE network featuring WWE superstars. And this is the real test. This is the real test to see which numbers coming in, who streamed what, and what time, and we'll let them know. So AEW is up for the challenge on this one. Again, WWE is running Extreme Rules on Sunday. As I said before on the podcast, if you're thinking that AEW's competition is going to be WWE Direct, I don't think so. I think you're looking more at a AEW NXT warfare going on. I do think that the two brands are more similar. I think AEW, to be compared to main roster WWE, there's no comparison. I'm going to agree with Jim Ross on that one. There is no comparison on there. Main roster is just, it's in a whole different league, and AEW is nowhere near it yet. I think them going up against a show like Evolve is a true competition. I think AEW has to work their way up. Now, again, they had great success with Double or Nothing, but the last show, Fyter Fest, kind of fell a little bit off the wagon, and good for them. They had a great show with Double or Nothing, and they needed that. You need your first show to be that one stinger to grab everybody on the first one. This one, it's going to be them going up against another promotion, so we'll see what they'll do. And now moving on to our Extreme Rules predictions. As I said, Aleister Blackstones was answered this week from Cesaro. Great matchup. I'm very much looking forward to this. I'm going to go with Cesaro picking up the win on this one. Next up, we got Braun Strowman taking on Bobby Lashley in a last man standing match. And the last time that we saw these two go at it, it was chaotic and explosive. I'm going to go with Lashley on this one. I kind of get this feeling that Braun needs a little bit of time off. Might be good to write him off. If they're really not going to push Braun and have him just, come in these segments where he's just doing, stunts. Braun taking some time off. Lashley needs this win. Lashley looked dominant this past week against Rey Mysterio. Killed Rey Mysterio. Poor Rey. Lashley's going to pick up the win here. I think Lashley needs it more going forward. So Lashley will be the last man standing. Cruiserweight action, Gulak, who the night before will be going up against Matt Riddle. He's going to be defending his Cruiserweight Championship here against Tony Nese. I'm going to go with Drew Gulak. I think it's too soon to take it off him, and I think Nese was more like a short-term type of a reign for them, so I think Gulak will retain here. Revival defending their Raw Tag Team Championships against the Usos. Kind of forgot about this rivalry for the past couple weeks. Revival, the last time I really think that the Revival shine was that week where Shane had that party backstage in his own room. I'm going to go with the Revival on this one. I think I don't want to see an Usos reign again. I think Revival moving on down the line against another babyface tag team, I think that'd be good for them. Moving on, SmackDown Tag Team Championships got the New Day and Heavy Machinery going up against Daniel Bryan and Rowan for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. I'm going to go with Daniel Bryan and Rowan on this one. I just think they're great at being heel tag team champions right now. Heavy Machinery, I think it's just too soon still. They're building up to that win. You got to want it more, so they'll get it. New Day, New Day, are they going to stay together? Are they going to break up? Where are they going to go? Tag team, I've just seen so much of them, and I think they could do something else on their own. They can tell a different story that doesn't involve tag team. If they want to tell a trio or a tag team storyline, I'm all for it. Just I think keep it away from the tag titles. They can utilize some more talent if they wanted to there. Alexa and Nikki Cross challenging Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. This one's a little bit off with me because Alexa hasn't been on TV for the past couple weeks, and She wasn't on Raw and SmackDown this past week, and Nikki's been been doing a lot of her bidding work the last several weeks, and helping her, get these opportunities and now stipulations and the contract signings. And it's been a lot of Nikki, which is why I think that Alexa being out, it's been reported that she's has an illness. Can't clarify what it is at the moment, but look, guys, we all just send her positive thoughts to Alexa. Make sure that she gets better. But I do think Bayley's going to retain. I just don't think with the Alexa situation, Nikki's too soon, and just an abrupt win over Bayley, who just won the title, is a little bit too soon. Ricochet, the United States champion, defending against AJ Styles. These two have been telling great, compelling stories the past several weeks. They've been taking over Raw ever since Ricochet's really won the United States Championship. I'm going to go with Ricochet on this one. I think Ricochet, by some way, is going to get away with this. I think there's going to be some interference going on, but I think Ricochet is going to be hanging on to this title. Next up, we got the big match of the night. Taker, Roman Reigns taking on Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre in a tag team match. I think this is just more spectacle. I think this is the match that drew people to the show, to buy tickets to the show. I'm gonna go with Taker and Roman Reigns winning this one. Drew and Shane can take a loss; they're heels. Taker definitely needs a win, so I'm gonna go with those two. Kofi Kingston defending the WWE Championship against Samoa Joe. Kofi's on a roll, so I'm going to go with Kofi on this one just really quickly. Kofi's on a roll. Samoa Joe, Samoa Joe can lose a million times, and he's still coming out here looking like $1 million, killing everybody. So no loss for him. Kofi, another big win for him. And lastly, Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, the Universal and Raw Women's Champions, defending against Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans in a winner-take-all mixed match challenge. I'm going to go with Becky and Seth. There's no way that I see Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans picking up a win here and being the new Universal and Women's Champion. So Seth and Becky will close out the show here. And I think that's going to be it for Extreme Rules. Look, not much a big show, but a big weekend for wrestling. If you're going to be watching anything this weekend, please let me know what you're watching. There's going to be New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE, Evolve Wrestling, AEW, MLW, whatever you want to watch, enjoy it. Please, please, please have a great weekend, guys. Oh, and before we get out of here, most valuable performers of the week and floppers of the week. My MVP for the week is the new MLW World Heavyweight Champion, Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu with a dominant win over filthy Tom Lawler this past weekend at MLW's event, Kings of Colosseum. Great match. Good stuff from Jacob Fatu. If he is not on your radar, if you're a wrestling fan and he's nowhere on your radar, or MLW is on your radar, you're really missing out. I mean, he's somebody who was on AEW and WWE's radar. I think putting the championship on him can definitely certify him that he's going to be staying on MLW for foreseeable future. But again, dominant win, and congratulations, new MLW World Heavyweight Champion Jacob Fatu. And flopper of the week, what flopped for me this week? It's that finish on Raw. Gary the Goat Garbutt, man, you flop. So congratulations, you made it to floppers of the week. And that's going to do it for me, guys. Once again, guys, if you guys want to get in touch with this podcast, I am over at Twitter at Speaking Wrestle and over on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling. Be sure to like and subscribe over on YouTube at Speaking Wrestling. And I thank you for joining me for another episode of Speaking Wrestling, and we'll do it again next Friday. Have a great weekend.